Okay, let's resume. It's important that I have it on airplane mode because I don't get little buzzing noises. If I have it on airplane mode, I don't get buzzing noises. And it has to do with the microphone, as you all know. If you've been watching regularly. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I am getting a new phone before the end of the year. My phone carrier tells me that if I wait too long to get a new phone, they won't be able to switch over all my apps and stuff like that very easily. Or something like that. So I said, really? Oh, dang, that's not good. I don't know if that's true or not, but we'll see. Anyway, it'll be nice to get a new one. I'll make sure I get a better camera. It's not bad right now, but it does funny things. Maybe I'll get more memory. What funny things does the camera do, you might ask? Well, a lot of people give me a funny look when I say I gotta watch the time and make sure it doesn't get to 30 minutes because then it cuts off. They look at me like I've lost my mind. What? Yeah, after 30 minutes, or let's say 32.6 minutes, it will just stop and then it'll start up again, and I'll lose like maybe 15 seconds of, or maybe 5 seconds of video time in between the transition. It only stores like 30 minutes at a time, and I don't know if that's the camera or the phone software or both. What's up with that? I don't know. So I made one pass and I thinned it down, but I didn't get very thin on the stem. I'm going to try one flake off the stem to try to thin that before I shape everything. Yeah, these are crucial hits. I can't be messing these up. I got nervous on that one, but it worked out okay, I suppose. I still didn't thin it though. And I can't run a flake here because of the flaw in the material. I would like to run a flake that way. I've already dished out this part and dished out that part, trying to run flakes across here, but I can try to do it again, I suppose. Just deepen these notches or deepen the side indentations and then run more flakes. It is actually thin enough to haft, so I don't really need to, I don't think. But I'll try it anyway. Did they have these kind of stem points in Ohio? I don't know. Seems like they had stem points everywhere. Yeah, and there's different kinds of stemmed points too, not just this type. It looks like it'll be a contracting stem, but you don't know yet. I might change it up a little bit. Don't look at the thumbnail. It's supposed to be a surprise. I got some good suggestions on channels to watch. That was cool. So I watched some of them last night. Oh yes. Nice and warm. Finally, I started to wear warm clothes to sleep. More, you know. Started to worry about being freezing cold when I wake up. So after I get into the sleeping bag, or actually I have an insulated blanket. Once I get under the insulated blanket, I don't want to leave. So I'll sit there and I'll watch the videos. You know, I don't want to get back up to do other stuff, you know. So I'll just wait to get ready and then get ready to go to sleep. But get in under the blanket a little bit early so I can see what's going on out in the YouTube lands. Anyway, I watched some last night. It was pretty good. I watched some this morning. I watched some yesterday afternoon too, right after the video. But I wasn't watching the recommended one, so I was watching some other ones, historical type videos. It's kind of difficult to find the good ones. You got to watch a bunch. Why is it difficult? Well, you really don't know if they're accurate, and even if they are really accurate, I don't really know all that much. So it might not seem accurate, but it really is, because it's just me. I don't know exactly, or I've heard other things and not the true things. So you got to check everything. Try to get corroboration, right? Try to find more than one source that says the same thing. Sometimes that works. So you end up looking around at other videos or other sources and read various sources. Anyway, what was I looking at in particular? What was I looking at? I was looking at different medicinal plants. That's what caught my eye at first. Now that's a big old can of worms right there. People claiming certain medicinal properties for different plants. Yeah, and one of the reasons why I do it, look that stuff up, is because it is a challenge to find good information on that sort of thing. So it keeps you busy. It's a good thing if you want to kill some time, but I don't have much time to kill. But I was looking at local plants. Local plants. Why? Because I'm looking for different glues. Yep, there's a lot of pine out here, so I can get pine pitch, and pine pitch glue is not going to be an issue. But the pine trees, for some reason that I've looked at so far, they don't leak very much. It's weird. Some of them have damage on them, but I don't see a whole lot of pitch leaking out on any of the pine trees around here. They can have a big old gouge or a branch broken off and there's no pitch leaking out. I suppose there's more pitch if they have a disease, right? Or if they have some sort of infestation, insect infestation. They're trying to repel the infestation and they'll leak a lot more. Maybe they're healthier out here. I don't know. Anyway, what else could I use for glue out here? That's what I was looking at. Turns out there is not much. Not for hot melt. There's plenty of water-soluble glues. Yeah, but hot melt, like pine pitch and asphaltum, those are the ones that are good for arrowheads. Because the glue sets within minutes. You can use the weapon right away. What about the sinew? It needs to dry if you use wet sinew. What about wet sinew? It needs to dry. You can't use it right away. You gotta wait overnight for the sinew to dry. Yeah, if you use sinew. Well, you always got to use sinew, man. Always. No, you don't. You don't always got to use sinew. And you don't always got to use wet sinew either. You can use dry. You can make it damp. Just a little bit of water. And then hold it over a fire for 10 minutes. And then dry it up. Only takes about 10 minutes if it's just damp. Yeah. And you can use vegetable cordage that's dry. Or just a little bit damp, you know. So, is this an Ohio type? Probably not. But this is the easiest point to make when you've got a very uncooperative material. You've got a very uncooperative material and not much experience with it. I suppose if I had more experience with it, I could get it thinner. But that's it. I'm not going to mess with this anymore, although I could probably get the stem to be longer by forcing some flakes into these notches. Make the stem longer. Oh well. Let's finish this one up because I think this is going to take a while. Even when it's all pressure flaking. Okay, so yeah, looking at different glues is not the only thing I was looking at. I'm trying to think. Yeah, some of you guys might be thinking, well, now that we're on the subject, tell us everything you know about glue. Everything, all your knowledge about glue. In like 5 minutes, okay? Go. What is all my knowledge on natural glues? What is the elevator speech on glue? All your knowledge, condense all your knowledge into a few minutes. Okay, go. I'm waiting. The first thing that pops into my head when I want to discuss glues is I never use poop in the glue. Nope. No scat. I never use scat in the glue. Ever. Why? Well, because if you ever spend any time in the field, how easy is it for you to wash your hands? I mean, really. I mean, yeah, if you have a campsite, access to water, and some of you guys are glampers, you've got hot running water, well, it's pretty easy. You just go in the RV and wash your hands after using some scat for your primitive glue. But if you're out in the field, away from everything, you start picking up nasty stuff from the ground, you've got to have this gotta have this washing station set up for yourself, where you risk putting your fingers in your mouth when you're not supposed to. Yeah, who knows what's in that scat. And if you're like me, I'm eating constantly all the time. I got little snacks in my backpack or whatever. I gotta constantly be snacking on something. It's because I think it's because of the insulin hormone type deal, where I was developing type 2 diabetes, right? So that means I have too much insulin and too much insulin resistance, and it affects my appetite so that I'm always hungry. Anyway, it's getting better. But you're always hungry out in the field anyway, because you're using up energy, or trouncing around, physically active, right? All right, so you've got to be eating. Got to make sure you keep your hands clean. You're not going to be messing with nasty stuff. So I never use scat with my glues or for fires or anything. I stay away from it. I learned to identify what type, so I know what kind of creatures there are around. That's handy. But that's it for me. You guys want to mess with it? I don't care. But for me, that's the first thing on the list. I never go near that stuff. Second on the list, it's got to be a hot melt. And the easiest one is the pinion or pine type glue. Now, how do you heat it up if you don't have a fancy metal or clay container? Well, you got to find a flat rock or something. Either build a fire next to your pile of glue, or put your pile of glue next to the fire. I used to have a setup back at my old house where I would have the glue sitting in a blob on one particular stone that was kind of dished out at the top, and just leave it there. The dogs won't mess with that kind of stuff. So I just leave it there, and then I make the fire next to that little rock. It was part of the circle of rocks around the campfire. But I would make the little fire next to that rock. It'd warm everything up, and I would just be able to scoop out pitch from that rock. All right, hot melt. So you don't have to worry about the long drying times of other types of glues. You just cool it down and it's good to go. Heat it up. Doesn't take very long. Cooling it down doesn't take long at all. And then good to go. Did they use non-hot melt back in the day? Yeah. Is there evidence of it? I think there is evidence of it, because there's a lot of plant starch evidence on some of these stone tools. And it could be because they're just dicing up plants. Or it could be they're using plant starch glue, or both. Now keep in mind it is water soluble, so they got to probably coat it with a pine pitch or a hot melt also. So yeah, it's a little bit more complicated, and a lot of times you've got to start with a very dilute solution, like a sap that's very, very runny, and you've got to heat it for a long time on a rock or in a bowl to get it to thicken up. It takes time. So it complicates the process. But yeah, you can make a lot of different kinds of water-soluble glues. You got a lot more options that way if you have time. And you don't have to worry about the water solubility, right? So you're not cutting things that are full of liquids. If you're cutting things full of liquids, like butchering, then you got to go with the hot melt. Anyway, everybody knows this. I'm just blabbering. What else do I recommend? What else do I know about glues? What specifically? Specific trees, specifically. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head specifically. I know that one of the easiest ways to make glue is with sugar. If you want to make a plant-based glue, sugar and water in a little bowl, a skillet, or I don't know what they call it, saucepan, and just mix up a bunch of sugar. Yep. With water, let it boil down to the right thickness. Don't get it too hot, because then it'll be not very useful. It's got to be a little bit pliable. If you cook sugar too long, it gets all brown and black and crumbly when it cools. You want it a little bit flexible. Not that that will be very flexible, but you get my drift. Easiest way, so any plant that has a large amount of sugar can be boiled down, diced up, crushed into a pulp, and then boiled down, and it gets sticky and hard. The plant starches are a little bit more involved. I'm not really good at that type of glue, how to make glue out of plant starch. I just buy the Elmer's glue, which is made out of plant starch. That's the easiest. The easiest natural non-hot melt glue is the Elmer's glue, the school glue. The white, not the clear, although the clear is probably okay too, but I think the white is the plant starch glue. It resembles a sap. From what I've been using as sap glues and resins from trees, the Elmer's is very similar to how the resin glues feel. Except when it dries, the Elmer's glue is much better when dry than a lot of these other saps that I've been using. Because the ones that I use, I've tried elm, I've tried pecan sap, I've tried birch too, but that's a different subject. Birch tar. Birch tar is a whole different animal than these other saps from trees. Anyway, the type that I've been using or experimenting with ends up looking like gum arabic, which is kind of hard and crumbly and not flexible, not a flexible dry film like Elmer's glue. You dry Elmer's glue, let's say it dries on your hand, you can peel it off and it's a flexible membrane. If you have a sap and you do that, try peeling it off, it doesn't peel off, it rubs off and it's kind of crumbly. So I don't know what they're using in the Elmer's glue, but it's pretty good stuff. Anyway, if I can find that type of glue in the wild out here, that'd be awesome. Just as a general knowledge type thing, just good to know, that's all. I've tried boiling down maple syrup too to make it real thick. it doesn't get really hard. It gets gooey, yeah, and it will dry out, but it doesn't stay flexible. It does get gooey, but then as it dries out, it gets more and more crumbly. But yeah, maple sap, I suppose you could use it in a pinch, but I think what the natives used around here in this northeast area was spruce gum and pine, but probably mostly spruce. From what I hear, maybe there was more of it back in the day. I hardly find any of them right now. There's a lot of deciduous trees, more than I remember, and I think it has to do with the climate. Climate here is different now than it was when I was growing up here. So the trees have changed a little bit. So what is this point? I don't know. I'm just trying to thin it down. Should it make it more barbed? Maybe. In the 4 minutes I have. I'm just going to pick at it, see if I can make it look a little bit better. In terms of less lumps. And it doesn't really matter if the stem is symmetrical as far as, you know, being flat here and flat there. But it would be nice if it was flat on both sides. But I don't want to take a flake that's going to gouge into the bottom here, because then I can't leave it convex. It'll have to either be flat or concave. Why do I want it convex? Just my options. I don't know if I can think of a point that looks like this, that with the convexity I don't have to do anything to it. All right, anyway, so everything I know about glues, well, one thing that it saved me a lot of time when I was first doing research on glues is something called Cutler's resin. Cutler, C-U-T-L-E-R, Cutler's resin. They used to use that to fasten knife blades into wood sockets. I don't know about fasten, but they used to use it to set the blade in the socket, in the wood socket, using Cutler's resin. And that contains pine pitch, something called brick dust, B-R-I-C-K, yeah, the regular bricks, brick dust, pine resin, brick dust, and beeswax. I think that's the mix. And the usual mix to beeswax to anything else, beeswax is about 10% of the glue mixture, not more, not less, about 10% of the glue mixture if you use beeswax. Okay, and it's by weight. That weight is easy. You just measure it on the scale and add it by weight, not by volume, parts per volume or whatever. You do, I think it's by weight. Now, if it seems to be not working for you, if you're using it by weight, then use volume. But I usually just weigh it out. They all weigh about the same, pine pitch and beeswax and powdered material. One interesting fact is the Native Americans did not have beeswax before European contact. Okay, look it up. So if you're thinking you've got a Native American type of glue and you're putting beeswax in it and using it to heft that ladle dart points, sorry, no beeswax. Beeswax is from domesticated bees. Are there wild bees that produce wax? I think there is a species in South America, but I don't know. I'm not an expert on bees. I shouldn't be talking about beeswax then. Well, all I know is that the European bees that produce the wax, as the name implies, are European. They weren't here before the Europeans. So anyway, just a fun fact, right? As they say on the internets, interwebs. Fun fact is Native Americans did not have beeswax. What else do I know about glues? Or well, what else do I do with the glue? Yeah, asphaltum or tar used to be a lot more common. You could find it on beaches. It would wash up on beaches. So it was used quite a bit. And as long as you don't inhale the vapors or eat it, it's not toxic. Generally not toxic to humans. All right, so there you go. That's it. They're finished out as much as I want to do them. I might do some more on this, but I might just offer both of these together as a set in the auction. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, I'll probably just offer these together. All right, there you go.